Hey, welcome to the My Identity Podcast. You have decided to tune in on a momentous occasion. This is a great episode. I've got my good friend, Jacob Lowery. Jacob Ferrand Lowery.
Ferrand.
Is it Ferrand? My bad. Jacob Ferrand Lowery, says Glenn Duran Mahan. Butchered the name. So tune in, grab you a beverage, grab you some popcorn, sit back with your favorite person, and prepare to be entertained, uplifted, and encouraged. Welcome. You're going to ride with us on the My Identity Podcast.
Welcome to the My Identity Podcast, where we like to say my DNA is different. Hear the conversations and stories from people learning how to engage life from an all things new reality. That your purpose and that your identity isn't determined by what you do. This is the My Identity Podcast with Duran Mahan.
Man, I've been waiting on this episode for a while. I just didn't know. I didn't know if you'd have the time to carve out.
Oh man, always time for you.
Oh,
you know
man.
that. My
Jake,
brother.
Yeah, man. We have a history. I did on one of the little clips I did last week or 2 weeks ago preparing for this, shooting the promos. I told him, I said, I hope that you don't bring out any incriminating stories.
I know them all, buddy.
You do. Yeah. Jacob knows where the bodies are buried. At least 2 or 3 of them.
Yes, sir.
Man, where we want to start, let's go way back. Let's
all right. You want to talk about the first time I ever saw you?
First time I ever saw you. Yeah, I think that's a funnier story.
Let me start.
You want to start? That's right. You are the guest.
Tioga Campgrounds.
Yes, sir.
I don't know the year, but I was
1986.
Young. Whoa, you know the year. So there was a fella playing drums, and he dang near had an afro.
Welcome back, Connor.
And he was a great drummer. He really was.
That's to make sure you say was, because it is a was. It ain't an is now. It ain't.
And it was you.
It
was you, man. Yeah. That's my first memory of you.
That's what I don't know if it was the same day. No, it wasn't the same day, because I saw you out by the basketball courts.
Sure. Not playing, though.
No, you weren't playing. You weren't running anywhere at that time, man.
I was sweating, though.
You were sweating, but you weren't running. Jacob had on I don't remember the color, but I just remember it was in cotton, long sleeve polos.
Sure. And
Gerbeau jeans. And Louisiana people know what Gerbeau is.
They do.
Probably
and
some East
also,
Texas.
just mention that this was in July.
It was July.
In Louisiana.
Dude, which is not, I mean, it's like the beta testing for hell at weather at that area right there. But he had that shirt on, and it hit him below the knees.
That's right, man.
Because, it was all business. And
yes, sir.
And he just went in, but he was the coolest cat. And you're 42, 43? Yeah. Somewhere in there? Yeah. Ish? Yeah. Well,
in the music industry, I'm 26.
20. Of course you're 26. Because I'm 30. So I knew it was about a 10-year difference. Right. So 36 and 26. Yeah, but I just remember Jacob, man, and you hear of some people that are not hood rats, gym rats. Jacob was a music rat, man. He playing bass, drums, and then he's actually closer to my brother's age. He was almost my brother's brother-in-law.
Oh, we're gonna do that?
Yeah, let's go, man. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, he went out with your sister for a long period of time.
They dated.
Yeah. I mean, we went to the concession stand after youth camp together.
They dated.
Soft, creamy tacos and stuff. But anyway, so anyway, Jacob and I go back to literally 1986.
Wow. And
then there was a period of time where I never saw you after that. I was too busy going to Bible school.
That's right.
Learning the good book.
Being married and
I've been married. Yeah, that's most of my life now. It does seem that way some days. No, not really. But there was now you do remember one of the girls. I dated a girl before I found Tina, or before she rescued me. There was another girl that we both knew. We won't mention names here. We're going to protect the innocent or the guilty. Yep. But yeah, so you remember some of my, because if you recall, and you may not, but during that time at Tioga, that was the first youth camp that I ever went to as a camper, because I was always scared to stay away from home.
Oh.
I wouldn't even stay overnight at my best friend's house.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all messed up, man. I was afraid I wanted to be next to Dad and Mom in case the rapture took place. Sure. Oh I didn't trust anybody else's salvation back in the day.
Yeah, because Landy was
carnal.
He was too old.
He was. Yeah, he was past that age of accountability, wasn't he, man? Right. So he might not make it. He had to stand on his own 2 feet. But I went to youth camp for one reason. And that was to fill up my little black book for camp meeting a few weeks later.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. But anyway, let's get past all that, man. That's all under the blood.
It's good memories, though, man. Stuff. I mean, because honestly, if I look back at that, Man, the environment we grew up in was so rich musically. And you were a part of that, bro, because, I mean, you're just an amazing singer. And also Tina is one of my favorite singers, your wife, Tina. And, like, all that was cooking there at that age for me and that time for me is very important to even to what I'm doing now. People ask me, you know, where do you develop your musical instincts? And, like, where does that come from? And it's from the time we're talking about right now. I mean, because there were amazing musicians that we were surrounded by.
That's all we could do.
And one part, I was going to say that part of that is because we literally, that was the only thing that we could do. Yeah. And for me, thank God.
Yeah, man.
You know, I mean, had I not been so focused on that, I definitely wouldn't be doing what I get to do now.
It paid dividends, man.
Man.
I think that's the next time that I saw you. Were you on the road with Landy with that All-State Youth Choir? You guys play together? Because I was at that. One of the things, and I want to say it was either in DeQuincy or DeRidder, which is kind of the area where you're from, but that's where I saw you guys, and you were playing. Yeah. And, of course, Landy was singing, had his tambourine.
Probably. And I was on that tour, I was playing drums for some songs. Okay. And playing bass for some songs, and then singing in the choir on other songs. So it's totally like I was just living my best life.
Before Joel Osteen had any idea about that book. You multifaceted, man. Well, so musically, when did you start kind of with lessons, or was it first lessons, or was self-teaching the first thing?
My first musical memory is at the church I grew up at in DeQuincy, Louisiana, and it was a Pentecostal church, and man, just covered up with musicians and singers. And I didn't realize that until I went away from it and saw, this place doesn't have, 6 deep at the alto chair.
Barrenness.
Yeah. So anyway, I was 5 years old, and Suzanne Smith was playing drums at the end of service, and it was a barn burner at the end of service, and it was a song about this.
Oh man,
that
there's 100 songs can fit into that rhythm and go seamlessly from one to the next.
They just been going, and I would stand at the front of the stage and just watch her. And I was 5, and I was just watching. And she looked at me, she caught my eye, and she goes like that. She kind of gave me the nod.
Really?
I'm 5, and so I walk up next to her, and she hands me a stick and says, "Just keep doing this, kick, snare, hat." And I said, "Okay." So she sat me down, handed me the sticks. And I started doing that, and I just kept it going. And I was looking around, and everybody was kind of nodding their head.
Just had the natural sense of rhythm?
Yeah, and I could see my mom and dad down front, and I remember thinking, I want to do this. This is what I want to do.
Dude, I never heard that.
Yeah, so that's my first real, musical moment that kind of hooked me.
Suzanne Smith. Is she still alive?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Really?
They were a literal next-door neighbor. She had a big old drum kit in her room.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I had no idea about that. I just thought I remember you were telling me, you took bass lessons from a guy in Lake Charles or something, didn't you?
It started on drums, and then and I just was eat up with that, man. Eat up with it. And my mom said, well, you need to take some lessons for something else. So she made me take piano lessons, and that kind of didn't stick. Yeah. I'm thankful I did it, but the next thing was I was around 12 years old, and she said, okay, you're going to take bass lessons. And I had a mentor in the town I grew up in that went to church with us named Brent Cole, who you knew. Oh, yeah. Killer musician all around. But he was more of a friend and an amazing bass player, but I wasn't going to really learn from him in that way. Yeah. So I took lessons from a sweet Cajun gentleman named Jerry Mouton. Yeah. So I took lessons from him, and then that just caught on for me too, the bass thing. Yeah. And I started just playing either bass or drums, whatever was needed at church, whoever couldn't be there, or a different, like with the choir thing with Landy. Yeah. So I was just listening all the time, man, like going far back and listening and listening to whatever was current.
Who's your earliest influences musically, man? I mean, I know you and I could go a whole episode talking about
a lot of it is like black gospel stuff that I remember at home. But at the same time, it's like it was all happening at the same time, because when I in the early 80s, that's when they started playing on the radio a lot the stuff that happened in the 70s and the 60s. So that was classic rock. Right. And I just listened to the radio all the time. Every room had a different station going at the house. And so I was hearing, Eagles and Bob Seger and,
Tom Petty.
Well, Petty was a little bit. Yeah, he was on the actual, pop radio at that point.
Oh, okay.
But then like, some of the yacht rock, like Stephen Bishop and, Kenny Loggins and of course Michael McDonald and all that kind of stuff was cooking on the radio too. In addition to Tears for Fears and things that were actually coming out. And I was a kid, I was a baby, man. But I was listening to all this stuff. Also country music was happening. And I listened to that like crazy all the time. My dad at his barbershop, he had KYKZ, Kicks 96 playing all the time.
Yeah.
So I had all these different types of music coming at me. And now I'm just so grateful for that.
It was literally a part of just your DNA, man, of what you would become and still. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that now that I can appreciate, of course, our daughters are good friends, but it makes me proud as a parent. Even back in the day when Zoe first really tuned in and started listening, dude, she would pull out stuff that I was like, she's cultured. Yeah. She has the musical gift. She's listening to not just stuff that all her friends are listening to, man. She's digging back, digging deep. And I remember Zoe always does. She gives Tina and Ryan and I like our own private concert. But when it's shower time for Zoe, she goes in, closes the door, and then we hear cranking noise, man. Just the music and her singing to the top of her lungs. But she would sing stuff like, Ella Fitzgerald and just things that she would get on playlists or either hear on that I would listen to. Yeah. And
so, I mean, now luckily our kids can access all the stuff we're talking about.
Oh, my God.
But, this sounds like an old man comment, but honestly, like we have to sit there and listen and dig on the radio or go buy it.
Yeah. Did you ever call in the radio station and make requests?
Did I?
And I would have the Memorex. Get ready to record it, baby.
Absolutely.
Yes. I had tapes, Memorex, TDK. Those are the two brands I remember. And I would fill those rascals up and then listen to them on my little Walkman.
The original playlist there.
That is. That was way before Apple and Spotify.
Yes, sir.
And that was actually, man, God, if I had some of those tapes, if I even had a tape recorder, because when Tina and I started dating, we had the Sony Walkman that had 2 headphone jacks.
Oh, isn't that sweet?
Broke down Silver Eagle bus right close to Lake Charles, man, and Chicago 17.
Woo!
If She Would Have Been Faithful, come playing.
Man.
Jason Sheff singing through the airwaves and magic happened. Cupid nailed me twice, man. That was where it all started. Broke down on the side of I-10. But when did you actually? What was like your first like gig, like where you were? You're part of the band.
I have a hard time knowing which one of these happened first, but I know my dear friend who went on to heaven last year, Tim Spell, Jr. He's a couple years older than me. His dad and he and his 3 brothers would come to our church in DeQuincy all throughout my childhood, and they sang like, so good. Well, Tim figured out that I played drums, and Brent, my friend that I mentioned earlier, was playing bass for him on some shows just in that area. And so Tim said, well, just come play drums for us. So I went and played several shows with them. Making money.
Yeah.
I think they paid me $100 or something.
Oh, you're living large,
dude.
Man.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was.
And it was either that or Hector Soto.
Oh man, that's a name.
Who got me to play on a couple things. Now I did a lot with him. Yeah. He's a great worship leader, one of our great singers. I mean, my gosh.
Dude just came through a major health scare lately.
Yeah, man. He's doing great. I talked to him this past weekend. He's doing great.
Man. Yeah.
But anyway, it was one of those two, but it was something like that, like we played at a church service. And you just show up and play whatever drums they have,
Slingerland.
So I was like, I don't care. I'm getting to play drums in front of people. It's
CB700 and Rototoms. Yeah, man.
Let's go. Yeah. So I think that was probably one of my first paid gigs. And then I started getting paid to go play at like youth camps and stuff, and either drums or bass, whichever one. And I kept thinking, maybe this could be a thing for me. I don't know how, but maybe this could be a thing for me. And all through high school, I was doing that same kind of thing.
Were you in band? Did you take band in high school?
Not really. Mainly it was choir, and then I got a vocal scholarship to McNeese in Lake Charles, and I went and did that for a year, and I was like, I do not want to be a music education person.
Dude, I didn't know this stuff about you. I'm getting to know you for the first time.
Okay, cool. So, so I left high school, went and did that for a year, and the only option there, I went and talked to the president of the music department and said, look, I just want to play bass. Is there something here that lets me do that? She said, no, we're just music education. She said, but if I were you, I would stick it out and stick with the music theory stuff. Whatever you do, you're going to need that. Yeah. So, okay. So I had a scholarship, music school was paid for that year, and I did it. And then the last day of that semester, which would have been spring of 97, sometime May, I guess, I drove home from Lake Charles to DeQuincy. People are starting to tune out on this. This is getting so boring.
Yeah, but we're pretty, so they'll stay.
Okay, that's right. You're right. So I pulled up to my house where my parents were. My dad was home for lunch, and my mom walked out on the front porch, and she had my bass, and she had a bag of clothes. And she said, Jacob, you're moving to Austin, Texas today. And I said, what?
This was in 97?
Yeah. She said, you're moving to Austin, Texas today. And it was like like, wow, what is happening? Like, you
had made no plans or no overtures toward Austin or anything?
I was coming home to get lunch, get free food.
Other plans.
And I was just kind of like, what? And she said, she screamed in the house. She said, Raymond, come out here. We're going to pray for Jacob. He's moving to Austin. And my dad walks out like food on his, like, what? And they handed me $200 and we prayed on the front porch and written down directions on how to get to Austin.
What was the connection to Austin?
My sister, Hope and Jerry Snyder were music directors at a church in Austin, at Brother Phillips Church. Yeah. And we kind of need a bass player to fill in every once in a while. They already had a bass player. So my mom thought it would be best for me to not stay in that town. She had a bigger vision. I didn't. Wow, but she thought I'm going to have to push him out of the nest. Yeah. In order for whatever it's going to be to happen, or else he's just going to stay here, and which would have been a fine life too. Yeah. But she literally made me move.
She pushed you right out of the nest, man.
So I moved to Austin, and within a year, Hope and Jerry, my sister and brother-in-law, resigned their position at the church and moved to Louisiana to start their own thing. Well, the pastor of the church said, "Can you just be music director just in the meantime while we find somebody?"
Man.
And it's a 100-voice choir. It's 2,500 member church. It's a pretty big thing from where I come from. And I said, yeah. I mean, I was not qualified to do this.
He was ready.
But man, that was when I learned how to chart properly. That's when I learned how to be prepared. That's when I learned how to be early, show up prepared and know my stuff. And thank God for that time. It was hard, but, I'm glad I did it. That's when I met Lori. That's when, we got married a couple of years later. And
That's like learning how to swim, and they just throw you in the water and say swim.
Yeah,
So you jumped in.
And also.
Thrown in by mom.
Oh, gosh. Well, that's also when I had to, get back behind the piano and play a little bit.
Yeah.
And also that's when I thought, I should probably learn how to play guitar, too.
Yeah.
So I had that kind of space in my life right there, and I just dove in to all that stuff and production studio stuff. Yeah, that church had a great studio. They were way forward thinking on that, so they had a huge console, like a proper studio, one of the first Pro Tools rigs, and I just got to spend all my time in there working on stuff.
Wow. See, now that's when we reconnected.
Yep.
Because you guys were working on the television, the Austin Awakening at the time.
Yep.
And then the group we were with, Everest, or it was also called Everset.
Yeah, whatever you call it.
Or the Everett.
Yeah.
Somebody, one of the times they billed us as the Everett. I don't know who that was, but we got there. But I remember being there and we sung, and you were on the production and played and everything, and that's where our group, that's where we reconnected, man. Now you were married at that time, I think.
Yeah.
You just gotten married, I believe.
Yeah, that was like 2002 or something.
Yeah,
somewhere
sure was.
So we've been married a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were there with my wife, and then Landy, my brother, and then
Sweet Wren.
Sweet Wren, Miss Amy. That's what my grandma always called her. So that was where that went. That's the point of reconnection that never got disconnected. So it's been ever since that time.
Yeah, you've been really stuck
21 years, man. Wow. We don't look that old. That's not, man. I feel spry as a cat right now. I don't even know he's a cat.
Oh, jeez.
we have these obscure references that we'll make from time to time. We'll include those in the show notes where you guys can play along. But so then, when you were there, so you guys were in Austin through 07? Is that when it was, or 08?
08.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Tina and I and our family had already moved. We moved here to Nashville in 2007, and a church that we were at, that was kind of, I like to take credit for it just a little bit.
Sure, you should.
Helping you guys get
called
here
you.
to Nashville.
I mean,
yeah.
Well, you know, we were happy as could be being music directors. Lori's brother had started a church in San Marcos, Texas. I was the music director, worship leader, still doing sessions, you know, doing some touring, playing with Phillips, Craig, and Dean, playing drums or bass or whatever they needed with them. So, you know, I was getting to do all this stuff. Family was close by in Texas, and I came up here and did a session. I actually played on something for our friend John Ragsdale up here. He flew me up to play on something. And while I was here, Lori called me and said, I feel like we're supposed to move to Nashville.
Did she have a dream or something about
She had
that?
a dream. And she said, I really felt like we're supposed to move there. And I'm thinking, why? How's that going to work? Like, we're going to move to town and I'm going to be the, 800th best bass player in town. I mean, yeah.
Get a job at Starbucks and just hang out there, man. Yeah.
And she said, I don't know, but that's what we're supposed to do.
Man.
And so that was January. 2 weeks later, I went in and gave my brother-in-law my 6 months notice and said, I'll help you find somebody, but we're going to sell and we're going to move. Only people we know up there is Duran and Tina.
And then we left the church that we were at. That we were going to want to bring y'all in and kind of work there out of there. Well, they call it basing out of.
Good.
Or whatever. Yeah,
that was good too. That didn't happen. But we knew y'all, and that was about the only people we knew here, and we just kind of dug our heels in and thought we're just going to play the long game.
Yeah.
And I didn't know any. I knew Kyle Lee, who's the guy I knew from Texas, and he would throw me songs to play on. But otherwise, dude, it was ground zero.
Dude, I have used your story so many times talking to people, even people that want to come here, that have aspirations to do all the things Nashville music, or just people that you are an example to me of a guy that the right thing happened for the right kind of person because of knowing you, the character, the integrity you had, just the good guy, good hang, always encouraging, great example, and things started happening for you. From my perspective, it was almost a meteoric rise once you got here because you mentioned Phillips, Craig, and Dean. That was like your first label group, touring group, or whatever that you, I guess, that you played with.
Yeah.
And then so after that, but just watching you, the connections, the friends, because everything was always about relationships with you two. You and I both had that rural Louisiana part of our history and of our DNA that was all about that, man.
Yeah.
And so to watch the things happen for you, I know Tina and I would just get excited with every story, every opportunity, because I was like, see, good things do happen to good people.
Oh, man.
And that's always been the case from us. I mean, and we've gone through periods of time where we hadn't seen each other in a long time, hadn't talked, but it's like when we reconnect, it's like you hit the pause button and we're just right back where it left off because there's that heart connection there, man.
Yeah, man.
And so when you got here and you started session playing, and then how long were you with PCD once you got here before you moved?
Well, I was with my first show with them would have been in '99. It was at Cynthia Woods Pavilion in Houston.
Really?
And it was they were the closing act of some big festival that was there. And boy, you talk about for a 19-year-old or however old I was.
Yeah.
I don't know how I must have been 20. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm messing up the timeline of my age here. Anyway, I was young. So, man, to walk out, like we did sound check and I was like, oh, this is big. This is a big place. But then you go out when there's all those people out there and you don't factor in that adrenaline rush thing.
Ooh, yeah.
And that was before we were all using in-ear monitors. Just the drummer had them.
Yeah.
And we were playing with tracks and he starts the thing and I don't hear, and I'm the music director and I'm like, I don't hear anything except for the crowd going,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
And the first note, the lights were out and
you remember the song?
Concert of the Age.
Yeah.
And I went, like, I don't know what note I went to. It didn't matter.
Oh, man.
I was just so, like, jacked out of my mind.
What a moment, man.
Yeah. But anyway, I was with them for a long time. Then we moved here. I think I quit playing with them in 2009.
Okay.
Because nothing bad. Like, I still talk to every one of those guys and love them, and
Great
so
dudes, man.
grateful for all of them. But I just felt like I needed to stop.
Yeah.
Because I really believe that whatever you put yourself out there to be, that's what you're going to be.
Yeah.
Call that marketing, call that whatever you want to call it. But I was playing drums for them, and I didn't want to play drums anymore. I had done sessions with people that actually play drums in this town, and I thought,
I want to move on.
That ain't happening. I'm just gonna play the one note on the bass. So I really felt like it was time to stop that, and it ended well, ended great. Again, still close with those guys. Yeah. But that stopped in 2009, and I literally like quit the last dependable thing that I had, and just kind of floating out there on faith, man.
It's a good thing Lori had that dream for you to hold on to.
I know.
You were supposed to be here.
Because that was about it. That's about all we had.
Well, a dream and a prayer, not a wing and a prayer, man.
Yeah, so that ended in somewhere in that time frame. I think it was 2010. I've looked it up recently.
Yeah.
Who I mentioned earlier, Kyle Lee, who was in a band called Pocket Full of Rocks in Texas that I met through Michael Farron. He was second engineer on a Michael W. Smith record. And for some way or another, Tommy Sims, hero bass player, my favorite musician on earth, couldn't make the session to play bass. And so Kyle told Brian Lennox, who was producing, God rest his soul, hey, you need to check out Jacob. You need to give him a shot. So I went and had lunch with Brian. Kyle talked him into using me for one day on a session. So I went in. It was me. Dan Needham.
Oh my gosh!
And a guitarist named Adam Lester who plays with Peter Frampton. I mean, he's just an amazing guitarist.
Yeah.
And then Michael showed up. Michael W. Smith showed up and played keys. And
he played little keys, didn't he?
He's all right. Yeah. He's all right. And so we're getting drum sounds, and Dan starts playing, and I'm freaking out the whole time, dude. I'm like, this.
Because you knew his credits even before that. I mean, Dan was legendary. Yeah.
Dude, I knew what he was going to play before he played it. And so then we started playing together, like just getting sounds, and it was like a just boom. Like we've been playing together forever because I had been playing with him.
Yeah.
And then Michael came in. He couldn't have been nicer, and it just went great. I think we tracked 2 songs that day. And so at the end of the day, Brian said, hey, man, why don't we just finish tracking the whole record?
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I got to I felt like it was close to a week worth of tracking with that same band. And, man, it was so great. And then I've told this before, I felt like, here we go.
Did you?
This is going to be the jumping off point.
Yeah.
And it did. Dan started telling other producers about me, and Brian, Lennox, the producer, started telling other people about me, and so did Michael W. Smith. Shouted my name from the mountaintops. I mean, and he didn't have to do that, and he did.
Right. I didn't know that Dan predated Scott with you. I didn't know Dan was the first guy that you.
No, Dan was the first.
All right.
And then I was like, man, I'm on my way. This is about to start happening. Well, brother, it didn't.
Wrong.
It didn't. And man, I just didn't. It didn't lift off like I thought it was supposed to.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been here 2 years. What's happening?
That's got to be enough
I never
time.
said that to anybody till this very moment, but I'm thinking that,
Right, yeah.
But it was years. It was years after that before I could say, just sitting around playing bass is my career, or just fully not having to hustle from every angle every minute.
So you were touring with him and doing sessions as well.
After that session, he asked me if I would tour with him.
Okay.
And that's when Scott and I got involved.
Yeah. I remember being with you guys on Long Island, New York.
Oh, that's
we were
right.
With another artist and opened
for
you guys, because I still have a very goofy looking picture of you and me and Scott backstage with our glasses, cattywampus, and all of us looking in different directions.
Yeah,
like
man.
We didn't know up from
I
down.
was lucky enough to get to fall in with some really great musicians, man, and Scott being one of the tops.
Just had him on here about 3 weeks ago, man, to hear his story.
And what a great guy.
He doesn't have to say anything, and I laugh.
He's funny, but man, he's a genius too.
He's got a depth about him, man.
Heart, just a big
very,
heart, man.
very great heart. Love Scott, man. Going through challenges right now, man. We've talked about it. And he just, I'm debating. I'd like to get in that plane with him because I know he does.
Fun.
But I don't.
I did it, and if you watch that, this is a sidebar. Scott,
we want to promote Scott too, man. Yeah.
I got in that plane with him, and we ate, and then on the way back, that was tough. Because there's a lot of this happening.
Oh, man.
And I'd just eaten.
See, I don't know if I could do that because since my health issue in 2019, I've only flown a couple times, but it was big commercial, so I didn't feel like I was in maybe buying a sausage can.
Maybe you shouldn't.
Maybe I should just, or either get good and tipsy before I got in the plane or something. I don't know. But so what? All right, so we're gonna.
How are we doing?
We got plenty of time, man.
Oh, look at us.
Good. We're making it happen. Because I want to get to the point to where I just want to get to all the points, not any specific. But so you left Michael.
I'll do it quick. I can do it quick. And so I left. I toured with Michael W. Smith, which could not have been cooler, man. Yeah. He's just a great dude. I mean, what you see is what you get, talent-wise and just character-wise. And then, again, my hero, Tommy Sims, was moving out of the Michael McDonald touring band.
Shifting genres here, man.
Yeah. And so I got a call, and Dan, again, Needham, told them, hey, I got a buddy who plays bass and sings. Check him out. So they called, and it just all worked out for me to move over to start touring with Michael McDonald, which was a dream. I mean,
grew up on that stuff, man.
Yeah. I knew all the stuff, man.
Yeah.
I knew it. And that was fantastic. So great. And I was with him, and we toured hard up until 2019. When 2020 January hit,
right,
he was going to start touring with the Doobie Brothers. And so I was just going to say, I'm just staying home and just investing in the session side of things.
Right.
And, the world stopped turning at that point.
It
but that was a great thing, man, because it really did kind of make me hunker down and just do sessions.
Yeah.
And I did that. And then in December of 21, I got a call from
that's our 2-minute warning.
Oh, it is really?
No.
Sorry, you'll have to edit this part.
Since we're editing really quick, you're good.
Am I getting sideways? Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Cool.
Since we're editing. Okay, so December of 21, I got a call from Reba McEntire's music director, and Mark Hill.
Was she a new artist?
Yeah, she's an up and comer. I thought I'd take a chance.
Yeah, it was good. It's good of you to help people.
Here's your one chance. And then Mark Hill, who is, one of the bass gods in this town, had been playing with her forever.
Yeah.
And he was going to step away. All good stuff. And so they called, and so I hopped on with her January of 22, and toured with her up until just a couple months ago or recently. And still going to do that as needed.
See, we saw you in Birmingham last year,
right,
when you played, and I may have shed a tear or two.
Oh, good,
because we were there with my best friends that we grew up with in Birmingham, Barry and Gina Clevenger. Barry and I have been friends since 1972, and he's as rabid of an Alabama fan as I have been. I'm recovering now.
True,
and but. Heart attack will do that to you. It'll put you in forced recovery. But we were there that night, man. And when you came out and started, it was just, to me, it was like, because again, I'm a little older than you. I'm not nearly old enough to be your dad, but I'm old enough to be an older brother. Sure. And so for me to see you up there doing your thing and knowing the kind of guy you are, the talent that you are, I was just like, dude, I wish I'd have had a sign. I'd have been holding it up out there, but I didn't, man. But it was just seeing you do that, and then of course the drummer is Garth.
Sweet
Justice.
Garth, yeah.
And you guys you sounded great, man. And Reba, and admittedly, I was never a country music guy. Growing up, that's all my family listened to,
right,
which naturally I pushed back against. I wanted to do something different, so I was always rock and pop and whatever I could do that my dad didn't think sounded like rock and roll music with Christian lyrics. Glenn was he was a stickler back in the day. But to hear you guys do that, man, and come out, and then of course fancy and all the songs that I remembered because I would get it over the bleed over. And when I was trying to listen to rock, Mom and Dad would be, turning the 8-track up with country music instead. But man, it was good to see you doing that. And just, for me, it was just, like I said, it's just validation of the reality that good people do things the right way and great opportunities come. Man.
Yeah. Well, I've screwed it up along the way, but I guess you just learn from that. And luckily I have Lori as my partner, and she's got all the stuff that I don't, man.
Yeah.
She's got ways to see things and help me see things and take a break, take a breath, hold on. Okay. Do we need to do that? No, or we do need to do that. She's great at all that. Thank God.
Something with wives, man, because Tina and Lori have a bond. There's a chemistry there. They have it's nauseating sometimes to realize how smart they are if I would take time to listen to them on the front end.
Well, this will tell them how we feel about y'all and our family. So last year I fell through the roof of my barn.
You did.
Everybody, I'm fine.
Yes.
Look at me here. I'm here
God
today.
Have mercy.
But I fell through.
Wasn't even Christmas time.
Nope. I was up there cleaning it off, and I fell through, and I landed on a beam, and I broke all these ribs and punctured my lung. And anyway, long story short, the first people that Lori thought to call was y'all.
Yeah.
And y'all drove. Not gonna cry.
I know, man.
And y'all came out to the house and took care of the kids.
Yeah.
So,
dude, I remember that. I remember when it called. We had just sit down to eat dinner or something, and I hear Tina in the kitchen on the phone. And bro, she's just Tina's usually in control, but when event crisis things happen, now crisis that like is a process. It's like soft crisis. She manages those well, but when something bad like big happens on the spot, I kick into the. I'm cool hand Luke, man, and she kind of freaks out. So I could tell by the tone of her voice something was amiss. Yeah. And so we jumped up. I offered to jump in behind the ambulance and follow you wherever you were going, but we came out with the kids, man.
Yeah, thank y'all for that, and all our family here, man.
Yeah, we feel the same way, and we're gonna have a love fest here on the latter half of this show, man. It's just what happens when you sit down with people.
Okay, what do you want to ask me? I'm sorry, I've been talking the whole time.
No, that's what I mean to do. I brought you. I wanted you to come on here because I want them to hear you. I did have a couple of things though, and this is not. I just want to get a perspective because I asked Scott a little similar question, but we were brought up in the church, so to speak. Well, no. Actually, not
literally, almost literally. Like literally, my house was across the ditch from a church.
And in Gina, where we lived, we one right little gangplank way. I run in and I would turn the PA system and play and sing all day long. Poor Sister Johnny was trying to clean the church, and I had sound cranking, and it wasn't always the inspirations and then the Sweet Comfort Band. It was I played Journey and Toto in there too at times, but I just told them it was a new Christian band, but. Cutting our teeth in church, but having the sense of really wanting to push the envelope and for the music to be great, and at the excellence, the creativity, and you and I have talked about this. But talk about some of the frustrations, man, where music and creativity has been dumbed down or sanitized, just because we take it within the four walls of stained glass and steeples.
Yeah, and I'll say all this. I had this thought this morning, and I actually have thought this over the past 5 years or so. I never want to build anything I say based off of negativity.
Sure. No.
Like I never want to be the guy that's like, I build what I'm going to do on an anti-this, whatever it may be, campaign.
No, you can't sustain that.
I saw somebody that you and I know recently that was like doing an instructional video or something, and the whole thing was based off of, you don't want to do that. Don't do this, do this. You know what? That may not work for you.
Exactly.
So I'll preface whatever I'm about to say with, it can all work. It really can. I had this conversation with Mabel this past weekend because we went to a church and she sang, and it was I helped them plan their set. I helped them plan what keys it was going to be in. I helped them plan their segues in between songs. And, dude, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was just like a great musical experience because, personally, I find I'm so inspired by that.
Yeah.
That someone would be good enough at what they do to plan out a set. Now, if you're that good and something happens in the middle of the set, we'll chase after it. Go for it.
Right.
If you're that good and you don't just have to play those 4 block chords that are there, which is fine. Again, I'm not saying this detrimentally.
No, I get it, man. Yeah.
But if you can chase after whatever was trying to happen, go for it.
Yeah.
But I think that just that fine line of, I think that being so lackadaisical and just like, I'm going to show up and here are the 4 songs we're going to do. That works.
Yeah.
It definitely works. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but for me, I like to, I mean, even if I'm just playing on a gig somewhere, dude, I prepare for that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rely on talent. That's out the window.
I think it honors the creative process and what you're putting out, man. It honors
How about
that.
it honors the creator?
I think that's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So again, I would never bash anybody for their process of how they do things or whatever. Not going to do that. But for me, just like, man, excellence is important. And even to the small details of, okay, dude, you're playing bass. How about you make your 8th notes shorter on that verse? That way, when you get to the chorus, if they're longer, they mean more and they have more intensity.
Right.
Or play your 8th notes up higher on the verse, and then on the chorus, drop it down low, because then it's going to go boom. So, some people aren't thinking that all the way through. And I don't even think I think about that all the way through now, except for it's just coming out that way.
Right.
And now I'm rambling a little bit, and I could get in trouble.
Well, no.
But
see what you're, because even, and you talked about, honoring the creator, but to me, that's when I listen, and I'm being a vocalist, what I listen to, everything is singer first.
Well, that hello, pop music.
Exactly.
The vocals,
man.
everything.
And but I listen to the singer, and there's something. So, I mean, emotions are a part of it. I've heard people just poo-poo on emotions. It's not about emotions. It's not about, but emotions are a part of who we are, and music speaks to that. Yes. But I can, when I'm listening to a singer that cares about their craft and cares about the creative process, dude, I feel that.
Nothing like it.
I went, the very first Toto show I went to was in the Ryman back in 2017, maybe. And I was sitting there, and I'm already giddy like a kid, on Christmas, because I've heard these guys since I was a teenager, And so I show up and I find out who the players are going to be, because Toto kind of interchanges players from time to time. And so I'm sitting there, and the guy who I thought was Gandalf was actually Lee Sklar. He comes out on the bass.
How about that?
Well, man, the light it goes completely black, and then they kick off on Child's Anthem. And dude, they got into that song, and I just sit back, and it literally took my breath, and I sit there and I started crying.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, God, I hope nobody sees me, man. But it was just, and then through that whole show, it was like 2.5 hours of excellence, man. Yeah. And I'm like, they're loving what they're doing, and they've played, man, how many times have they played Africa and Rosanna through the years live, and then, re-release it every 3 or 4 records, But hearing the excellence, and but you feel that. And I had the same experience when I was sitting in the Superdome hearing Celine Dion sing back right after the whole Titanic thing came out. But through the years, listening to them sing, and then watching Michael Jackson, hearing how he would take hours, man, just for one move, because he was trying for a very specific thing to do, and his vocals and the way he built vocal stacks and stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, to me, that is, they may not even know it or even consciously think about it, but they're honoring the creator by giving such care and attention to the gift that the creator gave them, because they want to impact and affect lives with it.
Yeah.
And I don't like that cruise control and sleepwalk through it just because it's fine. Let's just do it,
Yeah, well, and I mean, there again, I'll just say everything seems to work.
Yeah.
Everything seems to work somehow. But for us being artistic, it hits a little differently. Like, the kids always make fun, because if I hear something that moves me, I can just be sitting here talking to you, but then a tear will start just coming down.
Man. Yeah.
Just like that. Brandy Carlisle's song, The Joke, every time I hear it, there's something, it just like,
strong song,
it just
man.
falls.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, and so that's kind of an indicator to me. But also, I mean, if you're talking about excellence musical excellence in the church. If you're not excellent as a professional, you're going to get fired. Okay.
Yeah, it'll fix that.
If you're not excellent as an act that's going out, people aren't going to come.
Right.
People aren't going to come there. Yeah. So I just always feel like that's what we need to do as musicians in the church.
Yeah.
And again, I just want to keep saying, like, I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. I'm just saying, let's do our best.
Yeah,
come on, man.
exactly.
Let's think about if the first song is in E and the second song is in A flat, those aren't related.
They're not even kin.
Let's go ahead and just do the second song in A, because those would work together. You could find a transition.
Yeah.
And our pastor, Dustin, recently was talking about how sound,
frequencies.
The frequencies.
Yeah.
Well, I fully believe that. Like when he started saying that, I'm like, yes, I'm on board with that. Mm-hmm. But also, if you change keys in between two unrelated key songs from song 1 to song 2, those frequencies, it's gonna mess with your body.
Yeah.
Even people that don't know
Literally.
what key a song is in, they're gonna know that was weird.
Yeah.
Something just felt weird. Oh, we're in a song again. Okay, here we go. No,
exactly.
But if you just take a little time to go, let's just make those relative.
Yeah.
And then let's take out this and do that, and we have this beautiful thing to present here. And not in a fake way. On the same hand, I'm not a big fan of, in that setting, playing 2 tracks that were recorded at another time.
Right.
Because I feel like that moment already happened. Mm-hmm. And if you're trying to create a worship moment and you're playing the tracks that were recorded at a live record 6 years ago, or 3 years ago, that moment's gone.
Yeah.
But you're basically like karaoke kind of thing.
It's karaoke, Christian songs. Yeah.
So, and now again, this sounds mean, but but they don't. But I want to encourage people to play without that.
Yeah.
I want you to just play and fill up the room with what you're doing instead of tracks. Fill up the room with actual playing.
Yeah.
And get better at what you do instead of hiding in that. Now, tours that I do, we play with some tracks here and there. I feel like that's a little different than in a worship setting.
Sure, it is.
So I've said way too much.
Dude, you are a sage. No, though, you've imparted some wisdom.
I'm never going to work again.
No, I think dude, it's going to even pick up. Lori may have another dream, man. No, and Brandon, maybe he'll allow us two more minutes here. Go to overtime because it's just good, man. We'll split it up, and make it a mini series or something. Vignettes. I had another question I was going to ask you, but I want to do something fun instead. And we'll bring you back because I want to do a whole lesson on a lesson. What am I teaching, a seminar here? Sure. I want to do a whole episode on best advice for musicians wanting to make a living or playing or singing coming to Nashville. But that'll take some time. So just let me plant that seed and let that germinate for a few months.
I could answer that now quickly and then you can harvest it out.
3 words?
No.
Go ahead. Let's do it. We can keep it for B-roll or something.
Okay, do the question.
Yeah. Best advice for musicians or singers that are wanting to move to Nashville or move to LA, New York, wherever, music centers, and make a living playing or singing.
Well, first thing is you got to get to wherever that's happening.
Sure.
So I always kind of thought maybe I could stay here in Austin and do that.
Live music
go back and forth.
World, right? Yeah.
Just didn't work. Didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So I had to get here, and it was a struggle. It was a financial struggle. Mm-hmm. It was tough. It was tough. So first advice I would give is don't get into gear debt. Don't go buy stuff that you don't need. Don't go buy, you know what, I'm going to need all these microphones for a studio. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Get what you need.
Don't get you hired.
And that's advice from my beautifully smart wife. I would say, you know what, I think I need to get that. She's like, do you need it? Like, are they not hiring you because you don't have that? No.
Lori laying down some wisdom on you, man.
Right.
Yeah.
She was right. Because when I moved here, I had one bass. I had a 73 jazz bass. And I would go to sessions, and the guitarist would have 15 guitars in one case and then 15 in that case. And I'd walk in with my one.
Under geared, didn't you, man?
It didn't matter, man. That one sounded good, in my hands. So don't go into gear debt until you have to start, okay, maybe I can get this piece.
Right.
When I can pay cash for it or whatever. Mm-hmm. So don't go into gear debt, and just be patient. Any relationship worth having is going to take some time.
Absolutely.
So meet with people, go to coffee with them, go hang out. Like, I have people call me every week or hit me on Instagram, and they say, I'd love to hang out. It's like, come to a session next week.
Yeah.
I don't know you, but come to a session.
Yeah.
Come see how it's done. Come meet people. Come meet some people. I mean, I do that every week. Mm-hmm. So invest in those kind of relationships with people. You may have to get a job that you hate for a while. You may just hate it, but at the same time, you have to think, this is supporting my music. This is supporting my music habit.
Yeah.
This is supporting my music addiction.
Yeah.
And that's what's important to me. So don't let debt ruin your musical dreams.
It'll do it, man.
Yeah. And just be patient with those relationships. It's somewhere along the line. When I first moved here, I thought, man, I want to be tracking with Tom Bukovac and Chris McHugh, and I had all the cats that were happening. It's still happening. Mm-hmm. But I found out I hit with them every once in a while. I work with all of them. Mm-hmm. But it seems like the relationships that I was building at that moment that I've kind of grown with are the ones that are kind of sustaining through all the tough times. Yeah. So relationships, and don't get into debt, and don't get ahead of yourself. Just hang on.
Bro, that's good.
Yeah, if you love it, stick to it, and it'll be the right thing.
Yeah. You need to teach a course on that.
I do.
You do.
You're right, man.
I mean, maybe you need to do some kind of a bass conference or something.
You're right.
Don't you have a bass summit coming up?
This Saturday, yeah.
Is it this Saturday, really?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you'll be doing that, and this is your second one?
Yep.
You see it being an annual thing?
I hope so, man. I love it. Just bass players from all over come in, and
dude.
And we don't nerd. I mean, we basically talk about a lot of what we've already talked about today.
Yeah.
We're going to sit here and just nerd out over slapping a bass.
Right.
Kill me. Who wants to
like
hear a bass solo?
String, man. Yeah. Well, dude, yeah, that's. I mean, I want to be able people to know about that too. But I'd like to come just as an observer, because I can't play a bass. My dad and mom bought me a bass guitar when I was about 11 in Birmingham.
Aww.
It was an Aria.
Ooh.
They said it was the kind that the Beatles used when they came to America on one of their first tours.
Well,
at the neck, it was a spiral-looking thing on the very end.
Oh.
And I think I learned the first line of Another One Bites the Dust from Queen.
Bro.
Clean. And that was it. Clean's a new band that came out as a cover band of Queen.
Another One Bites the Dust by Clean.
By Clean, yeah. It fits, right? I mean, bro, man, it's been so good to have you. I want to do this 5 thing, which consequently I ripped off from your podcast.
Good.
Jake's got a podcast, too, that you got to go hit up, man. It's called The Sideman Chronicles. The Sideman Chronicles. It's on Spotify, Apple,
all of them.
All the platforms. Yeah. Great conversations, great stories with musicians and sidemen, singers. It's just, it's great. You need to go listen to every episode. You haven't done one since 21, right?
Yeah.
Don't have the space, man. I know.
I want to keep doing it, though. Maybe something will open up.
Well, it'll give them time to catch up.
Yeah. There's 40 episodes. So
40 episodes, man. Well, I'm going to do this, man, and I probably know the answers to a lot of these questions because I know Jacob better than a lot of you out there probably, but these are just 5 yes or no. They're actually not yes or no. They're multiple choice.
Oh.
Except the last one, but I think you can just pick the answer. So, number 1, Otis or Floyd?
Oh, man. Do I have to?
Both of them are dead. They won't get mad.
I know, man, but I've been liking Floyd more here lately, man.
Dude, yeah.
Oh.
I think I would probably have to go. This is an Andy Griffith. Unless you were born under a rock yesterday, you don't know who Andy Griffith is. This is the greatest show ever. Man. So I think I'm going to have to side with you with Floyd.
Floyd is strong lately.
I did hear Andy Griffith one time, he said that nobody could steal a scene
absolutely.
like Floyd.
Dude.
He's
that
hilarious.
Little stutter, and then he just kind of stopped talking. And
he doesn't have to say anything. Yeah. And he was just, he just kind of tails off on something, man. All right, so we're in agreement. I concur. All right, here's one maybe tough for you. Toto or Steely Dan?
Toto.
That's
that's not even a hesitation for me.
Yeah, that's big.
I mean, I know all of everything they ever did.
Such richness, such greatness. Movies or concerts?
Oh, don't know, man. Going to concerts is tough.
Well, you do that so often. You are at the concert.
Yeah, you're right. But I said at the beginning of this year I was going to go to more live shows here in town. And so I have done that a lot. And we usually drag Zoe with us.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed that. So
I resent that, man, a little bit because I want to go. I want to be drugged every now and then.
Okay.
I'll
buy you a ticket next time.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
I would have to say concerts. I've enjoyed it this year. It's good to go. And
I would too. Even
with the hassle of parking and all that stuff.
Yeah. Much more fulfilling to me. I mean, because I can always go on Netflix or Hulu and watch the movie later. Mm-hmm. All right. Do you enjoy session playing or live playing?
I would say that they're just two totally different things, and I would probably say sessions.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like to invent things. I like to create bass parts.
Yeah. Hard to do that on the fly in a live show, isn't it?
Well, usually you might get fired if you invent a new bass part to a song on the fly.
How risky do you feel?
Yeah, but the live energy is second to none, man. It's just so much, just learning how to manage your adrenaline and excitement. And
you did Madison Square and the Hollywood Bowl this past year, didn't you?
Yeah, and Radio City Music Hall.
Oh my God, yeah, I forgot you did that.
Yeah, and so. Not nervous, just not nervous at all. And then Lori and Mabel were at Madison Square Garden with me before the show. Reba's boyfriend Rex came up to me and said, "Are you nervous at all? Are you nervous, man?" I'm like, "No, I don't get nervous.
Yeah,
I don't get nervous." And then walked out, and like I saw all
that question echoing.
Well,
in your
I saw this Billy Joel stuff.
Oh,
like
man.
all of his gear he stays there because he does a residency there. And as we're walking out, I'm like, that's all of Billy Joel's gear. And then, I don't know, man, something hit me about the second song. And, dude, I clammed up hard.
Really?
Yes. It got in my head, man.
Oh, man.
And I never had that. And so I had to figure out how to manage that moment and still keep playing.
Yeah, stay in the right key.
Yeah. But I don't think I answered your question. Sessions are, you get to sleep in your own bed at night, too. So
yeah, that's a benefit for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man, overall, and this is probably not a fair question because there's so many, but overall, personally speaking, best musical decade?
Mm-hmm. It's hard for me not to say the 80s. But I've found in asking that question that it hits that question, the answer to that question is usually when people are a certain age.
Yeah.
So,
nostalgia.
So anywhere from like 9 up to 16, 18, 20. So somewhere in like that, there's a sweet spot where it hits people. And so for me, it would have been that. And I listened to 80s music a lot still. In addition to, I don't just listen to that, but man, it's just so, it seemed like it was a little more vast what you heard on the radio then. Like you could go from, a Michael McDonald to a Duran Duran to it just could be rockin', it could be soulful, it could be R&B.
There were so many fewer boxes back then.
It just sounds like old man conversation. It really does.
Yeah, it's big Andy Griffith to this.
Yeah, but then it was the radio was all we had.
Yeah,
and now we can hear anything at any time, whatever we want to.
Just take it for granted, man.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I'm gonna go 80s, man.
Yeah,
country.
What's it say about
name.
me, man? Did I really, when I get in the car, with Sirius XM sometimes I turn it on to, I listen to Sinatra. I listen to 40s music and stuff too.
Yeah, take it way back.
It just shows that I'm in my 90s. But bro, it's been a privilege having you here today. You passed that 5-question test.
I made it? Okay, good.
Yeah, I judged on the curve, so you're good. Hey, thank you guys for watching. Be sure and check out Jacob online, man. He's on all the socials. Jacob Lowery Music. Go listen to his podcast. If you're in town and you want to get a ticket and you want to come be blessed, come to the Bass Summit. I probably shouldn't do a mass invite for everybody, but there's, you can go online and sign up. So, man, this is a great guy, great friend, great player. Glad you guys were here. Be sure and tune in next week. We'll have another guest, and you're gonna want to sit here with your same popcorn and your same beverage, your same favorite person, and listen. Thanks for joining us on the My Identity Podcast. See you soon. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the My Identity Podcast. We're excited that you tuned in and you made an investment of your time into this podcast. It means a lot to us here. I want to encourage you to stop by every week, because we've got new episodes baking in the My Identity kitchen, and they're going to inspire, they're going to encourage you, they're going to give you something to make it through your week. So I want to invite you to click the little subscribe button here on YouTube, and not only on YouTube, but you can also subscribe on whatever podcasting platform you get your podcasts on. You can follow, like, and listen every week. As each new episode comes down the pipe, you're going to love it. And we are honored that you spend the time here with us on the My Identity Podcast. We'll see you soon.